Hello, this is Fear Dragon coming at you with another StarCraft 2 netcast, and we are once again back with the After Hours Gaming League game number 2. If you haven't seen game number 1 between Amazon and EA, go ahead and check out game number 1 before you watch this video. But if you're still around, I'm going to assume you have, and we're going to go ahead and jump in and introduce the players as we spawn down here in the bottom right-hand corner of Daedalus Point. On top of the blue Zerg player representing Team Electronic Arts, it is Electronic Arts' Andrew. And I like how he spells his name over there. You can see E-A Andrew. We can actually call him Andrew instead of Andrew, but I'm just going to call him Andrew because Andrew is kind of hard to say. But his opponent has a slightly easier to say name, spawning up here in the top left-hand corner as the red Terran player representing Team Amazon. It is Amazon's Resonant. Resonant, just slightly easier to pronounce. But yeah, this is once again game number 2. EA taking game number 1 in this preseason match. These are all preseason matches, so if you weren't aware of that, these matches are not actually counting for anything other than just the glory of being able to say that you beat out your opponent, so that next time you face them, you can just be like, oh, you were easy, man. We beat you before. And then there's that intimidation factor where they're like, oh, the hands are quivering at their keyboards and their mice just aren't working as they used to. But, you know, we do have pretty normal builds coming out from both these players. First rack's already gone down, gas has already been grabbed, and we're likely going to be seeing some sort of a Reaper opening over here from Resin, although he's going to have quite a bit of gas, so you could very well even just do something that some Terran players have liked to do, especially on a fairly big map like Daedalus Point. And also I want to note that there's a big distance between the main base and the natural expansion on this map. I mean, look at that distance. It's very, very annoying to cover for defensive purposes. So sometimes Terran players like to just immediately get up 100 gas and then they just straight plop down a factory just right out the get-go. And we'll see if Resonant is going to do that. Yes, he is. So we're going to be seeing some relatively fast Hellions coming out from Resonant. Now, we do end up having those Overlords coming over here. He's going to see, okay, you did not go for a CC first on the low ground, a Command Center first on the low ground. That would have been the very economic opening. So he's going to be looking to say, hey, what did you go for? And very soon he's going to be seeing Reactor plus the factory very, very early. Oh my god, actually that Overlord, so lazy. What? No, Andrew, what are you doing, Andrew? Oh, you were so close to scouting out to seeing exactly what your opponent was up to. Because there is no expansion coming down just yet for Resonant. This is a bit more of an old school style build. It's going to be a much more aggressive build than a lot of Zerg players are used to. And I like the decision on this map because, again, the Queens are not going to be able to defend both the main base and the natural expansion. The creep spread is going to take so long to get there, and those Queens move so slow off of creep. So they have to sit at either the main base or the natural expansion. And without identifying that, Andrew might not have the necessary defenses to actually deal with this. Because again, these Hellions are going to be coming out much sooner. He needs to make a couple more Zerglings. Maybe if he wants to be super safe, even make a Spine Crawler. But we're not going to be seeing any of that for now. He does actually still have a lot of drones and gas. He's going to be going straight up to a Baneling nest. So this is a very curious decision. Looks like he might just be trying to prepare for any kind of early bioaggression, maybe? Or I don't think that he's going to be going super duper hyper aggressive anytime soon. But regardless, Command Center is being plopped down for Resonant behind all of this. And the first two pair of Hellions is now out, and they are actually just kind of sitting around waiting for their next group of brothers to join them in the not retaliation, just I guess the attack on his Zerg opponent. But Command Center gets spotted, the factory gets spotted by the Overlord, and you know, honestly at this point the only thing that should be the tell is that the Command Center seems a little bit delayed. It should have been out a little while ago, and now he's going to see, okay, 4 Hellions, got to prepare for that. He has a handful of Zerglings out. He does also have a Queen, and, you know, he has not started that creep spread just yet. He's actually getting a double evolution chambers, just kind of preparing for a fairly safe macro game. But the 4 Hellions are coming in over here. The Queen is now starting to start up that creep spread. It's going to have a hard time with 4 Hellions over here. The Barracks also intimidating those Zerglings, threatening to land on them. But that is actually a lot of Zerglings over here, and the Hellions have to be very careful with their control. Actually, it looks like 2 of the Hellions have already gone down, so You know, I was saying that Andrew might not be prepared, but with this many Zerglings, he is most certainly prepared. And actually, the barracks now going to get push back that poor barracks, eating away at those needles. I mean, you think about it, these queens are actually just throwing little spines at the barracks. How many little spines do you need to throw at a building to actually burn it down? Much less one that is ginormous and can fly with little thrusters. It's kind of a surprising fact that a queen can actually even kill those barracks, but regardless, barracks will get out of there alive. Of course, just a testament to say queens have a bit of trouble killing off buildings with needles, but regardless, double evolution chambers finally kicking in those upgrades for melee attacks and armor upgrades. That's going to be very useful, considering he's going to have a bit of an edge on his opponent. And I just want to note, look at that beautiful game heart map, showing us that metabolic boost finishing up in 3, 2, 1, boom, completed. And with that, these Hellions are going to be much less useful, but they have already realized that. They've already retreated back to their side of the map, because they do not want to get caught out of position. And I'd love actually to see this barracks maybe position on the side of the map where the third expansion was, just to get a little bit of scouting information off on it. Because right now, he must be expecting that the third expansion has been taken, but he doesn't really see it. It's sometimes nice to just know that, especially when you saw as many Zerglings as you did earlier on with your Hellions. But now we end up seeing those Zerglings coming in over here. Are the Hellions prepared right now? They actually managed to get some big hits off with a Widow Mine. Oh my god, 5 hits. 5 kills on that Widow Mine and more on those Hellions. A very worthwhile time investment for a Resident to have that Widow Mine placed over there. Actually, this is the more curious Widow Mine positioning over here for me. It's almost like it's preparing for the Zergling run-bys, but not quite, because the Zerglings will run straight around here, and then they might cut through this little edge, but it takes a couple of seconds for that Widow Mine to lock on. But hey, we end up seeing that armor upgrade for the Zerg player going to be finishing up very soon, and once it does, you could actually start to be a little bit aggressive, because we are seeing, you know, layers finished up, Spire is now going down, and I mean, with a Baneling Nest, and we saw a couple of Banelings, I think, being morphed in somewhere. No, I guess no Banelings being morphed in just yet. So, okay, he's going to play a little bit more safe. He's going to wait for that Spire to finish up and then maybe be aggressive then. But in the meanwhile, we have some more. Whoa, a lot of factories going down over here for Resonant. So he's going straight out into mech, and I'm a little bit worried about, you know, that decision over here. Because on this kind of map, mech could be a little bit difficult to pull off, because you look at this. Mech has a very immobile army just because of these, you know, you have the siege tanks, and you also have the Thors, and you have maybe some Ravens that you're mixing in. I mean, it's a fairly immobile army minus those Hellions. So think about it like this: when the Zerg player has a slightly more mobile army, well, actually much more mobile, like Zerglings and Mutalisks, how exactly do you intend to move across this map? Look at this really long path. And now, okay, now we're on the creep, now we're over here. It's such a wide open space, and there are so many possibilities for a big counterattack, and you can't really easily defend it. I mean, your third expansion is very wide open as well, so I'm a little bit concerned by this decision by Resonant, but Resonant, I mean, he is getting up a pretty hefty number of units, has a good number of Hellions, needs to get that Blue Flame upgrade ASAP, because those are going to be so important to dealing with those Zerglings. And, you know, he does have a Tech Lab on one of those, or 2 of those factories, so he could definitely do it at any moment. But it looks like he's going to be waiting for that a little while. I hope that he is not just forgetting about that. But Banshee going to come in over here, and this is actually one nice thing about the mech play, is that you have those Hellions and the Banshees to do a bit of harassment, although it does need to be target firing down those drones. Oh no, poor Banshee, greeted by all the Mutalisks and no cloak to save it. It gets taken down, and that was actually, you know, an investment to go for that Banshee, and I'm sure that Andrew's got to be thinking, okay, well, something's going on, because remember, he's only seen this one factory. Now he actually sees some of those siege tanks and the Hellions, and I mean, he's got to be thinking by this point, okay, there is something fishy going on. He's definitely going for some kind of mech play, which is a little bit interesting. That one Overlord, there's nothing to kill it, actually. I mean, he could maybe re-burrow a Widow Mine over there, build a missile turret underneath the Overlord, but that Overlord's going to be around here for the long haul. And actually, we do have finally a Viking out, so the Viking can take care of that Overlord. But honestly, right now, I am really liking Electronic Arts' Andrew's position a lot more right here. I mean, he has a nice little Mutal slot. He's going to be coming in over here now. There are an absurd amount of turrets, 5 turrets right now. And I guess that just goes to show what kind of resources you have when you go for that mech army. You have a lot of minerals and not a lot of gas. And it's going to push back those Mutalisks. So Mulos is definitely not going to be able to make anything happen over there. But oh no, Resonant does not have its SCVs properly mining at that third expansion. That is actually a really, really bad mistake right now. As there, he finally does end up correcting that. But oh man, I'm actually a little bit worried right now for Resonant because he has one Thor out, but that Mutos flock is getting pretty big. And oh god, we have a ton of Zerglings over here. Still no Blue Flame research actually completed over here. So even despite that, the Zerglings should get cleaned up without too much trouble. I mean, not much that those number of Zerglings could do against that many Hellions, but it's this Munos count that I'm kind of worried about right now. And actually the transition over into Roaches, I mean, the Roach transition is an okay decision, but there are a handful of Siege Tanks over there, so I don't think it should do a lot. It's more just going to kind of buffer the damage for from those Hellions and just kind of be annoying. Maybe we'll be able to start one-shotting some of those Thors and make sure that they don't get repaired back up or anything crazy like that. But the Munos count, I mean, once those Thors are dealt with, there's not going to be anything to deal with the Mutos. In fact, a nice little magic box where you kind of grab your Mutos and tell them not to clump up wherever they're attacking to take, a bunch of splash damage from the Thors. If that happens, then 1 or 2 Thors is not going to be enough. In fact, right now we only have 1 Thor over here. Do we even have any? No, we have 2 Thors out on the map and Ravens. That's all that there is going to be around to deal with these Mutalisks. Alongside the missile turrets maybe, but oh man, it looks like this 1 Thor is enough right now to actually scare back our Electronic Arts player. So kind of interesting, but behind it, I have to commend him. He is getting up lots of upgrades. I mean, he's already finished up 2-2 with a +1 armor on his Mutalisk as well. And I mean, he has 4 bases. Could really start raking in that gas income. And I don't know, actually, at this point, I think I would really like to see a tech up to Hive from our Zerg player. Maybe get out some of those Vipers. Vipers just so effective against that mech-based composition. I mean, you plant down a couple of blinding clouds and the Terran player is suddenly feeling very, very uncomfortable about that engagement. But speaking of engagement, we might see one over here. No, it looks like the Terran player able to chase back the Zerg player. Does not want to engage into all of those Siege Tanks and those Hellions. Although, the Siege Tanks were kind of unsieged at the moment, so a little bit surprised they decided not to go into that. Regardless, Zerg player moving around. Just look at that creep spread. He can actually engage wherever he wants, and looks like here he is going to decide to do that engagement as the Thors are now wailing away at those Mutos. The Mutos are very clumped up right now. They're taking a lot of splash damage. The Roaches also getting just obliterated by the Siege Tanks over here, and oh my god, did he just do it? Did he just completely prove me wrong? Look at how much army. We still have 107 army supply left over. 174 supply total left over for the Terran player. He barely lost anything in that. That was a beautiful engagement for the Terran player. And wow, the Mules just really could not get in and do the damage they needed to. I mean, it looks like that Thor count is starting to build up. We have 3 Thors. Oh, the Widow Mines. Was it the Widow Mines? I feel like there was definitely a lot of, there must have been some big splash damage going on in that engagement that really just obliterated that Mutals for us. I mean, we had almost double the Mutals count over here before, but it's not dead and over just yet by any means or any stretch of the imagination, because Andrew, it does have that really nice economy to fall back on. He has the Greater Spire coming up, and does need to start mining over here, at least from these 2 gas geysers. That's going to be a very important thing to do. But it also has to make sure he doesn't rally these Overlords straight into the Widow Mines. Although I guess if you're gonna set off Widow Mines, you might as well do it with Overlords since they'll survive. But regardless, I think that Andrew is just gonna try and regroup back up. Although Andrew has been really heavily remaxing on a lot of these Roaches, and I'm not sure how much I agree with that. I mean, the Roaches do cost a good bit of gas, and you could instead be getting out some more Corruptors. You could be getting out more Mutalisks. You could just be getting up more, or saving up some of that gas for that Broodlord transition, but instead using it a lot on those Roaches, and that could end up costing him over here if he gets a bad engagement. If these Siege Tanks are sieged up in time for this big engagement, then those Siege Tanks will just obliterate those Roaches. I mean, it doesn't matter if you have 10 Roaches or 30 Roaches. They're going to get wrecked, but here we end up seeing Siege Tanks completely unsieged. The Hellions get immediately obliterated by all these Roaches. Could this be it? Could this be what the Zerg player needed? The Sea Shanks are now sieged up though, and the Roaches are taking so much splash damage. Is it enough? It's actually going to be a very, very close engagement. The final Thor remains, or the final couple of Thors remain, I should say, with little bits of health, and managed to chase back the remainder of those Mutos and those Roaches, but here we end up seeing 29 more Roaches being made. Andrew has depleted his bank account, but it looks like it might be a worthwhile investment if he's able to completely clean up all of these units. And oh god, Resident, he's trying to siege up forward, move forward with a single siege tank as support in the background. I don't know if that's going to be enough, man. This is like your Alpha Squadron, but your Alpha Squadron is the most immobile force in the potential world of Terran units. And, I mean, yeah, you have a couple of Hellions mixed in over there, but I don't think that the Siege Cannons can really ride on top of Hellions. That's a little bit too heavy for them, but now we end up seeing the Roaches coming back in over here, and the Thor is going to be the most vulnerable points. Even if the Roaches somehow magically got cleaned up, the Mutals would clean up the rest, as well as this one single Broodlord. He's the hero Broodlord. He is actually gonna get level 2 soon. He might be able to fling 2 Broodlings at a time. No, that would be pretty cool, wouldn't it? Actually, no, it would be terrible. As a Protoss player, I'd hate that. But regardless, Andrew cleaning up that force without actually too much trouble, just getting a really, really solid engagement and taking out so many of those units. Only at the end did he really start to suffer a lot of losses to his Roach count. But, I mean, cleaning up all of those very, very gas-intensive units that Resident was making. I mean, Resident can't easily replenish that kind of army. And you can actually see that he's trying to add on a ton more factories, but I guess all he can really do at this point is make a handful of, you know, Thors or Siege Tanks, and then everything else has to be Hellions. Look at his minerals. He has almost 2,000 something minerals, and that's not because he's macroing really terribly or anything. It's actually just because when you go for a mech style of play, you are very gas starved, and he didn't have this 4th expansion for quite a bit of time. So I'm not sure how much I agree with throwing down all of those extra factories. I don't know if you can actually support that right now, especially with this big attack incoming and the fact that he very well may not be able to actually safely defend that 4th expansion, although actually, Andrew doesn't even realize that has actually been taken. In fact, he's sending a Zergling up over here to this 4th location, thinking that it might be taken over there, but this 4th location, much, much more difficult for a meching player to defend against a very mobile Zerg player, because, I mean, you have to defend all of this area over here if you want to defend that 4th expansion, whereas this side, I mean, you can kind of dart your army up and down between this ramp. It's still a bit of an annoying distance, but it's much more doable. But here we end up seeing those Broodlords coming in over here. Siege Tanks have to unsiege immediately, or they're going to start doing a lot of splash damage to themselves. But no, some nice hits going down on a lot of those Roaches, but it's just not quite enough, as all those Siege Tanks are getting obliterated by the Broodlings right now, and they do finally end up unsieging the Roaches. Come back in to finish off the remainder of the army. This is looking like it's going to be another game for EA as the GG gets called and Amazon falls down 0-2 in this best of 5 series. They only have one more game to bring it back. They're going to have to win every single game in this best of 5 series if they want to be able to come back from this. So if you want to find out what happens in game number 3 and whether or not Amazon can actually come back from this, or if EA is going to show a dominating force and position in the preliminary playoffs, no, not playoffs, the preliminary preseason, then go ahead and click on that link. I'll be putting it somewhere on this screen. It's going to be somewhere. Maybe my mouse is moused over it at some point. But regardless, go ahead and check that out, and you'll get taken to game number 3. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys soon.